Hello, my name is Melinda Contrero, and I'm an enrolled member of the Tulalip tribes and a proud mother and grandmother. I'm also an early Head Start home supervisor for a neighborhood house. I would like to open with the land acknowledgement that our Native American, Alaskan Native, Indigenous affinity group wrote. Neighborhood House recognizes that we are on Indigenous lands, specifically the lands of Coast Salish people. We offer acknowledgement to our Coast Salish relatives and cultures, including the Duwamish, the Suquamish, the Snoqualmie, the Muckleshoot, and many other Lashute Seed-speaking communities and people. We recognize that we serve communities on lands governed by the 1855 Treaty of Point Elliott, a treaty that has not been fully honored. Neighborhood House also recognizes that we serve Indigenous people who are in King County due to forced relocation from their traditional homelands, and that many of our resources come from sources that have created inequities for Indigenous people. On behalf of Neighborhood House, I'm excited to welcome you to our 115th anniversary event.
Hi everyone, welcome to Neighborhood House's What Matters Most digital event. My name is Angela King, local host of Morning Edition on KUOW 94.9 FM, Seattle's NPR news station. Well, we are here to mark a very important milestone. We're commemorating the 115th anniversary of Neighborhood House. Since April 7th, 1906, Neighborhood House has been a pivotal part of the landscape here in Seattle and King County. So much so that a photo history book of Neighborhood House is going to be published later on this year. We'll have more on that in just a bit. But for now, I want to thank everyone who joined us in our breakout rooms. Hope you had a chance to catch up with old friends or maybe make some new ones. Because if you had asked the leaders of Neighborhood House years ago how they thought we'd be celebrating this anniversary, I'm sure they'd say something like, in a ballroom together, with our community, our staff members, board members, volunteers, and just our friends who have been such an integral part of Neighborhood House throughout its history. But instead, I hope you are safe and comfy and cozy at home or wherever you're tuning in. Who knows? Maybe next year we get back to normal? Whatever normal means nowadays. But right now I want to talk about a different word. Well-being, and not just personally, but as a community as well. As our 2014 keynote speaker, Eric Liu, said, and I am quoting here, "Those who Neighborhood House serves are not clients being served by charity, but members of our community. We're all better off when we're all better off." Well put, Mr. Liu. And to help illustrate this important distinction, I'd like you to watch the short video right here.
What does well-being mean to you? Education for our children and youth, a place to call home, a good job with room to grow, healthcare and the ability to age with dignity. Do you have all of these? Do your neighbors? In the US, we pride ourselves as being the land of opportunity. But does everyone have equal access to the opportunities that create well-being? At Neighborhood House, we support the well-being of our communities. Our mission is to build community and increase access to housing, health, education, and economic opportunity. Just like building a house requires the right materials and expertise, building well-being requires community resources, social relationships, and opportunities to thrive. When these are not available, people and communities may have difficulty weathering life's storms. Because of systemic racism and decades of chronic underinvestment, there are neighborhoods that do not have a strong foundation for well-being. Neighborhood House addresses this injustice by providing linguistically and culturally relevant tools that our community needs. Preschool teachers, youth tutors, health providers, career coaches, all invested in your well-being in addition to resources across our community. And we can't do it alone. Together, we can advocate, vote, donate, and volunteer to build a community in support of everyone's well-being.
You know, as a human services agency, Neighborhood House has provided critical services throughout the pandemic. And by critical services, I'm talking about things like the navigation of unemployment benefits, providing rental assistance, and programs for children and young people to be engaged in while they're at home. Neighborhood House has also been a critical access point to the COVID-19 vaccine for many people in our communities. It's also been advocating for a more equitable recovery from the pandemic. And for more on that, let's hear from Neighborhood House's board president, Marcy Hayden, along with some other staff members to talk more about this important work.
Hi everyone, my name is Marcy Hayden and I'm president of the board of directors at Neighborhood House. I've been on the board for 7 years, but even before I was a board member, I was a big fan and supporter for over 20 years. This past year, our board approved the strategic plan that will guide us for the next 4 years. We adopted goals based on improving the well-being of our communities, the safety of our staff work environment, and making sure our values guide us through every interaction as we prepare for equitable pandemic recovery and respond to the systemic racism that remains deeply embedded in our society. After the insurrection in January, I was proud to sign a statement on behalf of the board affirming equity, social justice, and the dismantling of white supremacy. As a board, we know our most effective method of eradicating racism is sustaining the work done by our incredible staff. I've always known that the Neighborhood House staff was dedicated and creative, but each day they continue to show amazing strength and resourcefulness, and I thank them. Under Janice's compelling leadership, the board adopted a strong legislative agenda, actively reaching out to our elected officials at every level of government, asking for their support of low-income people and communities. Finally, as a supporter, I do my part by donating, volunteering, voting, and inviting others like all of you to join me and do what you can. So please do join me and donate today. And never forget that Neighborhood House is doing the work that must be done, the work that matters most. Thank you.
I'm Mercedes Delgado, Patient Navigator Supervisor at the Seattle World School Teen Health Center.
My name is Jennifer Mendoza, and I am a Patient Navigator here as well.
My name is Greg Kasemi. I'm the Family Connection Supervisor over at the Family Resource Center at Neighborhood House High Point.
My name is Musti Kasa. I have been doing in Neighborhood House as care coordinator at Aging and Disability Service team.
I'm always trying to keep an optimistic, positive view, while also acknowledging that this is a really hard time and a lot of us are feeling really tired.
Especially working within the social services. We tend to often focus on our work and sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves.
It's been over a year now that we've been closed officially due to COVID. And I think that the mental shift of knowing that this is a marathon has been very important to the well-being of my professional self, but also my personal self, as we continue this work to help the lives of others and our communities and our families.
Currently, due to this pandemic season, we are working remotely through virtual means of communication.
We've done some parent support groups virtually, and we're hoping and looking forward to expand on that. The opportunities to connect even virtually, speaking over the phone or via webcam, is super important for this connection to community, and to know that you're not alone in this.
We've just been pivoting and shifting how we are offering services, and we're getting to do that in creative ways by doing outdoor events, resource fairs, offering vaccines. It's been nice to be able to offer like real tangible services to our clients during this time.
By now, above 80% of my activity is focusing on COVID-19 related issue, especially COVID-19 vaccine.
I feel definitely that we're seeing the end of the tunnel, kind of the light shining at the end with the vaccine rollouts. However, we're very tempered with the reality that there's still a lot of work to be done.
It's encouraging to hear just the word spreading and people feeling encouraged and comfortable because they're hearing their coworkers and neighbors and family members also getting the shot for free in a place that felt comfortable to them.
So thank you so much for your support for donors and the government. We need really your support because we have a lot of things to do.
Marcy and staff members, thank you so much for that. Now, as you know, this event is traditionally a fundraiser, and this year we want to emphasize awareness of the work this organization does, along with others in our region, because, let's be honest, we all need help weathering life storms, and Neighborhood House is here to provide the resources, especially for those who are furthest from access. And as you've heard, Neighborhood House is part of a community of supports that our region relies on thanks to key partnerships. We're talking about partnerships with nonprofits, corporations, individuals like yourself, government, and elected leaders. Speaking of which, let's hear now from King County Councilman Gurmai Zahalai, who represents District 2.
Hey everybody, this is King County Councilmember Gurmai Zahalai, and I'm so excited to be your keynote speaker today. I'm really happy to be here. We made it through 2020, we're grinding through 21. We're still doing this virtual thing, but I do think the days are numbered. I think the darkest days are behind us, and we're so close to being able to gather and be with one another again. So I'm looking forward to that time. But until then, we're doing this. I'm excited to be here. This event is a special privilege for me because of how full circle it feels. Many of the people that Neighborhood House serves remind me of my own family and our own journey here in Seattle. My story begins before I was born. In the 1980s, my parents fled Ethiopia because of a civil war, and they crossed the border into Sudan as refugees. And in that situation, my brother and I were born there in Sudan. And when I turned 3, my family boarded a plane and flew across the Atlantic Ocean to the United States. And since I was 3 years old, I've grown up here in South Seattle. We grew up in places like New Holly, which was called Holly Park back then, Rainier Vista, Yesler Terrace. And when I reflect back on those days, I realize how difficult life must have been for my family, speaking limited English, living in public housing, my parents working low-wage jobs. So the support of organizations like Neighborhood House was critical for our survival. Organizations like Neighborhood House, REWA, Boys and Girls Club, they kept my family above water and gave me, my brother, and my sister the opportunity to grow up, to learn, to go to college and even law school. And these early support systems have even enabled me to eventually come back to the district that raised me and run for office. Here I am as your King County Council member now. As a council member representing South Seattle and the Central District, I get to focus on designing solutions for thousands of families like mine that struggle in our current social and economic realities. This year, on their 115th year anniversary, correct my math if I got that wrong, Neighborhood House's work has never been more important. We're not only in an era right now of multiple compounding crises, but we're in an era of multiple crises that seem to favor Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Our communities are harmed more by the pandemic, harmed more by the recession, more by systemic violence. As a region, our strategy for recovering from all this must be to put tremendous emphasis on equity. We have to put the lion's share of our resources and our energy where the need is greatest and support organizations that are serving the most harmed communities. Neighborhood House is exactly that kind of organization. They're working in public housing, serving low-income communities of color with things like vaccine distribution, rental assistance, and providing so many other critical human services. Your support of this organization is needed urgently. Your support of this organization is what's going to get us through the pandemic, get us through the recession, get us through systemic violence. Supporting organizations like Neighborhood House and Neighborhood House specifically is so critical. So I encourage you today to donate. I encourage you to volunteer for Neighborhood House. I encourage you to advocate for Neighborhood House and share information about this organization and its resources as widely as possible. We've gone through so much this past year, but I do believe, like I said earlier, that better days are ahead. And supporting Neighborhood House is an integral piece to that recovery. Thank you so much for being here today and for supporting Neighborhood House. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
King County Councilman Zahalai, thank you so much for that. Now, as I was saying earlier, Neighborhood House is critical to our region's strategy for an equitable recovery from the pandemic. And with more on that, let's hear from Executive Director Janice Taguchi.
Hi, it's Janice Taguchi, Executive Director of Neighborhood House. What matters most is the running theme of Neighborhood House's annual breakfast. And this year, more than ever, we've had to consider what matters most to us. For example, when will season 3 of The Mandalorian drop? How many trips between my office and the fridge add up to 10,000 steps? And will I be able to fit into my work pants when I finally go back to the office? In all seriousness, we've all been touched in some way by the health and economic impacts of COVID. For some of us, the sacrifices have been relatively minor, wearing a mask, working from home, boredom. For others, for many of the people we engage with at Neighborhood House, the impacts have been life-changing. Neighborhood House serves over 16,000 Black, Indigenous, people of color, mostly immigrant and refugee children, families, and adults, both in and out of public housing. Young people who are on a path to a promising future, like Councilmember Girmay Zahalai. Older adults who have worked all their lives in low-wage jobs. Families that escaped violence for the promise of safety and freedom in the U.S., and people whose credentials from their home country don't translate to equivalent opportunities here. We all want and deserve a bright future, and for 115 years, Neighborhood House has opened doors to that brighter future, building community and increasing access to housing, health, education, and economic opportunity. We've been doing what matters most, working to soften the hard edges of poverty and inequality, especially this year. We distributed millions of dollars in rental assistance, helped hundreds access unemployment benefits in their language, and connected over 2,000 older adults to the COVID vaccine. We distributed over 800 tablets with data to families so our early learning programs could go online, and we partnered with Seattle Seahawk Doug Baldwin to raise over $35,000 for diapers when supplies ran out at diaper banks. In March, NASA landed the Perseverance rover in Mars. Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson developed a vaccine for COVID in record time, yet our families are struggling to get enough diapers. If we can harness our ingenuity, resources, and commitment to accomplish so much, we can ensure every child has the opportunity to succeed. We can ensure we all have access to a safe home and quality health care. And we can create a world free of poverty and racism where all people thrive. At Neighborhood House, we are actively working to make that vision a reality. In addition to the critical services we provided, we ensured our community was counted in the census. We help people become citizens and register to vote. And thanks to all of us, the American Rescue Plan was passed by Congress and signed by President Biden last month. It will reduce child poverty by 50%. We stood against racism. Black, Indigenous, and people of color experience higher death rates from COVID and less economic security to weather this recession. We advocated for the first mass vaccination sites to be more culturally responsive and for Employment Security Department to make their system accessible in other languages. We are advocating with the state legislature for investment in early learning, for progressive revenue and affordable housing and rental assistance. We not only attack the symptoms, but the causes and conditions that prevent all people from gaining optimal health and well-being. At Neighborhood House, we are working to create a world free of poverty and racism where all people thrive. Join us. Vote, advocate, volunteer, or donate. Help us do what matters most.
Thank you, Janice. If you are able to contribute, just know that any amount makes a huge difference. Just know that your donation helps create connections with our elderly populations. It helps run programs that give our children hope for the future. So today we have a goal of raising $170,000 for this event, and our sponsors have helped us get a third of the way there. So a big thank you to our premier and presenting sponsors, Franz Chocolates and AmeriGroup, as well as our other amazing sponsors you see right there on your screen. So go ahead and click on the link in chat or visit nhwa.org and click donate. You can make a monthly commitment or a one-time gift to help us continue this work. Again, whatever amount works for you is much appreciated and most welcomed. Now, this past year, Neighborhood House provided laptops, tablets, internet service to more than 800 children and families. It also provided more than 200 young people with in-person and virtual academic and social emotional learning opportunities. So critical during this time, as we all know. Neighborhood House also connected more than 300 clients with utility assistance and provided more than 1,000 clients and their families with critical housing assistance, which included the distribution of $3 million in rental assistance. So a monthly gift of $15, $50, $100 will go a long way in helping us continue this work that supports our community. Now, for those of you who can commit to donating $85 a month or a one-time gift of $1,000 or more, you will join our Sparklight Circle and be invited to Grillin' with Dylan. Yeah, we know that one. It is our summer barbecue with local James Beard award-winning chef and former Neighborhood House board member Matt Dillon. So any monthly or one-time gift helps, and you can find our donation page by clicking on the link in the chat or visiting nhwa.org and help Neighborhood House with what matters most. So a big thanks again to our premier sponsor, Franz Chocolates, and our presenting sponsor, AmeriGroup, as well as all of our other wonderful sponsors. And to close out our event, here is one final message from incoming board president, Cynthia Wang.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Wang, and I'm the incoming board president for Neighborhood House. Thank you for taking the time today to join us, and for opening your hearts and ears to listen about what matters most in our community. After we part ways today, you'll receive an email from us with regards to a recording of this event. Please consider sharing it with people in your network and with your neighbors. I will also encourage you to come back to Neighborhood House's website and check on it from time to time and stay connected with us. We have resources for the communities to use, virtual volunteer opportunities for you to explore, and also social media channels for you to stay connected with us. You heard about what matters most today. And remember, this important work happens every single day throughout the year and year after year. We can only do this work with your support. And if you're in a position where you can support Neighborhood House financially, please consider making an extra $115 gift today. For less than $10 a month, you'll be able to help us celebrate having been in this community for 115 years. Thank you for your support.
On behalf of Neighborhood House, my name is Angela King. I just want to say thank you all for your time, your attention, and your continued support of Neighborhood House. Have a wonderful day. Be safe. Stay healthy. Take care.